The studio lights were colder than usual that morning. Judge Judy's courtroom was filled to capacity, the air buzzing with quiet tension and a faint hum of whispers. A camera light blinked red, signaling recording in progress. The bailiff's deep voice echoed through the hall. "All rise." The crowd rose, their movements synchronized like an obedient tide. Judge Judith Shainlin entered short, stern, and radiating the kind of authority that could silence thunder. Her eyes scanned the room with that familiar, razor-sharp look. On the left stood Delaney, dressed in a designer blazer that probably cost more than most people's rent. Platinum jewelry sparkled under the lights. Her lips were painted the color of control, deep, defiant red. And yet behind that polished mask, her eyes flickered with something else. Arrogance, or fear pretending to be arrogance. Across from her stood Emily Harris, a woman in her mid-30s, hands trembling as she clutched a thin folder of papers. She wore no jewelry, no makeup, just quiet pain etched into her posture. Her eyes were tired, but burning with something stronger than anger, the desperate need to be heard. The bailiff spoke again, monotone and unshaken. Case number 312, Harris versus Delaney, plaintiff Emily Harris, defendant Delaney. Judge Judy adjusted her glasses and looked at the plaintiff. "Ms. Harris, you're suing the defendant for damages to property and emotional distress." Emily nodded. "Yes, Your Honor, for destruction of my small business property and for," she swallowed hard, "for falsifying a loan agreement." A ripple of curiosity went through the audience. Judge Judy raised an eyebrow. "That's quite an accusation. Ms. Delaney, your response." Karen smirked, brushing imaginary lint off her sleeve. "Your Honor, this entire case is absurd. This woman is bitter because her business failed. She's looking for someone to blame. I've invested in her, I tried to help her, and this is how she repays me." Judy's eyes narrowed. "You invested in her?" "Yes," Karen said confidently. "I'm a business consultant. I offered to fund her boutique. I lent her $25,000 interest-free, and now she's suing me. It's ridiculous." Emily's voice trembled, but she spoke up. "That's not true, Your Honor. She didn't lend me the money. She forced me into signing fake paperwork saying I owed her after she destroyed my inventory." Judy looked between the two women. The room went silent. For the next few minutes, the court listened as Emily told her story. Her small handmade jewelry shop, Luna Crafts, had been running for 3 years until Karen appeared one day as a business mentor. At first, she was kind, generous, promising to help Emily grow. But slowly, her mentorship turned manipulative. Karen demanded control of finances, altered supplier contracts, and eventually locked Emily out of her own shop. Then came the loan documents. She said I needed to sign them to protect the business. I trusted her, Emily said, her voice cracking. But when I checked later, the documents said I owed her $25,000 I never received. Judge Judy's jaw tightened. "Do you have evidence?" Emily nodded and opened the folder. Inside were screenshots, text messages, and an email chain, time-stamped, organized, and quietly devastating. The audience leaned forward. Judy flipped through the pages quickly, eyes scanning each one. The silence in the room thickened like fog. Finally, she looked up. "Ms. Delaney," Judy said sharply, "did you write this email quote, 'She won't notice the difference once I take over, she's too soft'?" Karen froze. That's not." Judy cut her off. "It came from your address. You want to tell me someone hacked your account?" Karen's jaw worked, but no words came. Judy stared at her, unblinking. The tension was knife-sharp now. "You know what I can't stand, Ms. Delaney? People who think they're smarter than everyone else, especially when they lie." The audience murmured. Karen forced a smile. "With all due respect, Your Honor, I've built businesses. I understand contracts. Maybe Ms. Harris just—" "Don't interrupt me," Judy snapped. "I'm not interested in your resume. I'm interested in the truth." The silence after that was suffocating. Minutes stretched like hours as Judy dissected every document, every word. She questioned Emily about dates, numbers, transactions, all precise, consistent, and verifiable. Corinne's side of the story, however, began to crumble like wet paper. She contradicted herself twice, then 3 times. Judy's pen tapped the desk rhythmically, once, twice, 3 times, the sound of growing suspicion. Then came the fatal question. Ms. Delaney, where is the original loan deposit record from your bank? Corinne blinked. I don't have it here. Why not? Because it was a private transaction. Private meaning off the books. Corinne hesitated. The crowd tensed. Then, in a moment that would later go viral across social media, Corinne tossed her hair back, leaned forward, and said the line that changed everything. You know what, Your Honor, I'm rich. I don't need to play by these petty rules. I can buy justice if I need to. The courtroom gasped. The bailiff's head snapped up. Judy's expression, cold as ice, froze in disbelief. Excuse me, Judge Judy said, voice low, dangerously calm. Corinne smirked. Let's be honest, Judge. People like me always win. I can make a few calls, get this dismissed, and... Stop! Judy's voice thundered like a gavel. Every soul in the room fell silent. The cameras zoomed in. You think justice is for sale, Judy said slowly, every word deliberate. You think you can come into my courtroom and brag about buying your way out of a lie. Corinne's smirk faltered. Judy leaned forward, voice colder than steel. You're about to learn what money can't buy, Ms. Delaney, and that lesson starts right now. The audience broke into a whispering storm. Corinne swallowed hard, realizing too late that she had crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. 36 seconds later. That was all it took. Judy flipped a page, scanned a document Emily had quietly slid forward, a bank statement showing that Corinne's own assistant had transferred the loan funds back into Corinne's personal account the same day they were lent. Fraud clear as daylight. Ms. Delaney, Judy said softly, would you like to explain why your assistant's name appears here, same transaction ID, same amount, same date? Corinne froze, the color drained from her face. That's a mistake. The only mistake, Judy interrupted, was thinking I wouldn't find it. The eerie silence that followed was broken only by the faint hum of the studio lights. Corinne's confidence shattered, her shoulders sank, her breath hitched. Emily, still trembling, looked up, and for the first time, she saw not the monster who ruined her, but a frightened woman cornered by her own deceit. Judge Judy closed the file. You lied, you falsified a loan, manipulated this woman, and bragged about buying justice. You will reimburse every penny of her damages, plus court fees, and I will personally ensure this transcript reaches the appropriate authorities. Corinne's voice cracked. Please, Your Honor, I didn't mean. Don't beg now, Judy said sharply. You had your chance to tell the truth. Corinne's lips trembled. For the first time, her arrogance melted into visible panic. She reached out toward the bench, as if pleading for some invisible lifeline. But there was none. The gavel struck once. Judgment for the plaintiff. The sound echoed through the room like a thunderclap, final, unforgiving, eerily satisfying. Corinne's face went pale as cameras zoomed in on her tear-streaked expression. She had wanted fame, control, power. Instead, she'd become a symbol of poetic justice. And as the credits rolled, Emily quietly walked past her, her dignity restored, her silence louder than any victory speech. But the story wasn't over. Because a week later, something even stranger happened. Something that made everyone wonder whether karma really watches and waits. The courtroom doors shut with a heavy click. For a long time, Corinne Delaney just sat there, frozen, mascara streaking down her face, the echo of Judge Judy's gavel still ringing in her ears. The cameras had stopped rolling, the audience was gone, but the silence remained heavy, suffocating. Her assistant, Chloe, approached hesitantly. Karen, are you okay? Karen didn't answer. Her perfectly manicured hands gripped her purse so tightly that the leather creaked. Her mind replayed those final words, "You think you can buy justice?" over and over, like a curse she couldn't escape. When she finally stood, she noticed something unnerving, the way people in the hallway stared at her, not with admiration anymore, but with that cruel curiosity people reserve for fallen idols. She had come into the courtroom like a queen. She was leaving like a cautionary tale. That night she poured herself a glass of red wine, her usual ritual for victory, but it didn't taste like victory. It tasted bitter, metallic, wrong. Her phone buzzed. It was Chloe again. "Karen, something's wrong. The investors just pulled out of the Delaney group. They saw the episode promo. It's trending on Twitter." Karen's heart dropped. "Trending? What do you mean trending?" "The clip, the one where you said you could buy justice. It's viral, over 2 million views already." Karen's wine glass slipped from her fingers and shattered on the marble floor. She scrambled to her laptop, opening her social media feed. And there it was. A still image of her in the courtroom, chin lifted, smirking, captioned in bold white letters. "I'm rich, I can buy justice. Karen Delaney, 2025. The comments below were merciless. Classic narcissist energy. Money can't buy humility. This woman just ended her own career on national TV. Her followers plummeted by the thousands. Sponsors dropped her name from contracts. The empire she built on image and ego was crumbling in real time, digital ashes falling faster than she could sweep them up. Over the next week, everything she had used to define herself began to vanish. Her business partnerships dissolved. Her clients reconsidered ongoing contracts. Even her luxury car dealership revoked her sponsorship deal. But the worst blow came quietly in an email marked urgent. It was from her accountant. "Karen, you need to call me immediately. There's an investigation into your financial records tied to the loan documents from the Harris case." Her vision blurred. Her breath quickened. She felt her world tilting off balance. Karma wasn't just catching up. It was sprinting. 2 weeks later, Karen walked into her once bustling office only to find it stripped bare. The glass trophy shelf empty, her nameplate removed. Chloe was packing up boxes in silence. "What's going on?" Karen demanded. Chloe didn't meet her eyes. "The board voted to dissolve your consultancy. Your accounts have been frozen pending investigation." "By who?" "The IRS and the district attorney's office." Karen's pulse roared in her ears. "That's impossible. I have friends." Chloe looked up sharply. "You had friends, Karen. They all saw that video. No one's going to risk their reputation for you." Karen stood there, stunned. Her empire, her wealth, her influence, evaporating faster than a mirage. When she spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. "You were supposed to be loyal to me." Chloe's lips trembled. Loyalty doesn't mean following someone into the dark. And with that, Chloe walked out, leaving Karen alone with her own echoing footsteps. That night, Karen returned home to her luxury penthouse, now strangely quiet, almost hollow. The city lights twinkled outside like indifferent stars. She sat on her couch, staring at her reflection in the darkened window. The confident woman from 2 weeks ago was gone. All that was left was a shadow, pale, shaken, and terrified of silence. Then came the knock. Sharp 3 times. Karen hesitated before answering. A courier stood outside, holding a thick envelope. "Delivery for Ms. Karen Delaney." She signed and closed the door. The envelope bore the letterhead of the Los Angeles County District Court. Inside, notice of pending civil fraud charges. Date, March 22. Her knees buckled. She sank to the floor, clutching the papers like they might somehow disappear. But they didn't. The law had found her again. In the weeks that followed, Karen tried everything: calls to old contacts, desperate emails to investors, tearful messages to lawyers. No one answered. Every door she'd used to climb up the ladder was now locked tight. And the eerie part. She started hearing whispers wherever she went, or maybe it was her own guilt speaking in disguise. In grocery stores, strangers would whisper, "That's her, the woman from Judge Judy." At coffee shops, baristas looked at her with pity. Even her driver stopped making eye contact. The world wasn't laughing with her anymore. It was laughing at her. One rainy evening, she wandered into a small cafe on the edge of town. She wore a hood, sunglasses, trying to disappear into the background. At the counter stood a familiar face. Emily Harris. Karen froze. Emily didn't notice her at first. She was serving customers, smiling, alive again in a way that felt radiant and genuine. Her shop, Lunacraft's Cafe and Jewelry, had reopened, thriving. Karen stepped forward, heart pounding. When Emily finally looked up, her smile faltered. "Karen." The sound of her name felt like a blade. "Emily," Karen whispered, I didn't know you worked here." "Own it, actually," Emily said softly. "The court settlement helped me rebuild." Karen's throat tightened. "I came to apologize." Emily tilted her head. "Are you apologizing to feel better about yourself, or because you finally understand what you did?" The question hung in the air, heavier than any judgment. Karen couldn't answer. Tears filled her eyes. Emily sighed and looked away. "You destroyed a part of me back then, but life, it has a strange way of fixing itself. You don't need to apologize to me, Karen. Karma already did." Those words, "karma already did," echoed through Karen's mind long after she left the cafe. Outside, thunder rolled in the distance. Rain soaked her designer coat as she stumbled into the street, lost, directionless. That night, she dreamed. She was back in the courtroom, only this time it was empty. The benches, the cameras, the lights, all gone. Just her and Judge Judy, sitting in an endless dark. "You said you could buy justice," Judy's voice echoed, disembodied. "Tell me, Ms. Delaney, how much is your soul worth?" Karen tried to answer, but no sound came out. The gavel struck once, twice, and she jolted awake. Sweat drenched her skin. The sound of rain on the window felt almost like applause, soft, relentless, mocking. She got up, stumbled into her office, and stared at the empty walls. For the first time in her life, there was no plan. No spin. No one left to manipulate. Just silence. And the echo of her own words, "I can buy justice," haunting her like a ghost that refused to leave. Weeks later, a small article appeared in the local paper. Disgraced business consultant found guilty of fraud, sentenced to community service and probation. The world barely noticed. But Emily did. She folded the newspaper quietly, placed it in a drawer, and whispered to herself, "Justice always finds a way." Months passed. Karen began her community service at a women's shelter, scrubbing floors, serving meals, living in the background of the world she used to dominate. At first, she resented every minute, but slowly, something began to shift. She saw faces, tired, broken, forgotten, and realized for the first time that her pain was small compared to theirs. For once, she listened. For once, she wasn't performing. And one evening, as she helped a woman fold donated clothes, the woman smiled faintly and said, "You have kind eyes. You remind me of someone who lost her way but found it again." Karen didn't reply. She just nodded, because maybe, for the first time in her life, she understood what that meant. A year later, she walked past Lunacraft's again. The window display glowed warmly, bracelets, pendants, tiny notes that read "Made with kindness." Karen smiled faintly and slipped a small envelope through the door slot. Inside was a simple handwritten note. Emily, you were right, karma already did, and I'm grateful it did because it gave me a chance to become someone worth forgiving. Okay. Emily found it the next morning. She read it in silence, then placed it next to the framed court verdict, a reminder not of victory, but of justice, balance, and the strange mercy that sometimes follows punishment. In the end, Karen learned that money could build walls, but not redemption. It could buy silence, but not peace. And justice, real justice, didn't need a price tag. Because karma, as always, keeps its own receipts.